Hey everybody, and welcome back to Colin's Crazy Creatures. If you've been to my channel, you know that I have a lot of snakes. And if you haven't, I have a lot of snakes. And I've gotten those snakes over different circumstances. BB Snake, my carpet python, I got from the breeder in person. Then another one of my snakes I got from the breeder, but communication was over the internet, and we got it shipped in. Another one of my snakes I got from a pet store, and the rest of them I got from reptile expos, some from breeders, some from general vendors. But no matter if you're getting your first snake or your 100th snake, these are 10 questions you should ask before buying it. So, number 1. Is it wild caught, captive born, or captive bred? Wild caught means that someone actually went out into the natural habitat of this animal and brought it in and shipped it. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because you can have wild-caught animals as pets that are very good. But wild-caught animals could be very stressed out from shipping, they could have parasites, they could not be eating, they could be sick, or they could just have something wrong with them. Which is why wild-caught animals are not that good. And also, if you don't like taking animals out of the wild, you should not be getting a wild-caught animal. And then there is captive born. Captive born means that the babies are born or hatched in captivity, but the female was gravid or laid the eggs in captivity. And this isn't as bad as wild caught, except that because they're taking less animals out of the wild, but of course we're taking some animals out of the wild for the females. Captive bred means that both parents were in captivity when the babies either hatched or were born. And this usually means over many, many generations. And this is the best over captive born or wild caught, and that is because they have a very, very low chance of being sick or have parasites when they're sold to you, and they have very good genetic genes if the proprietor is being honest with you. And that brings up question 2. How long have you had it? If you got the snake from a breeder, it's probably reasonable to assume that they had the snake since it hatched or was born. But if you're getting it from a dealer or a pet store, you want to make sure the snake has recovered from the stress of shipping, is healthy, and has no sign of disease, and has eaten. And in the case for my egg-eating snake Gummy, we got Gummy from a seller because generally all egg-eating snakes are wild-caught, and the seller assured us that he had Gummy for a while and Gummy was eating. And that brings up question 3. Is it eating, and what is it eating? This is important because if the snake isn't eating at all, you just shouldn't get the snake. But if it is eating, you should ask, what is it eating? Because most snakes in the pet hobby eat frozen thawed rodents. But that isn't always the case. Because when we got Lorelei, my Pueblan milk snake, the seller told us that she was eating pinkies, but didn't specify that she was eating live pinkies. So it was an ordeal to get her transitioned from live to frozen thawed. And some snakes, like egg-eating snakes that eat eggs, dragon snakes that eat frogs, and vine snakes that eat frogs, lizards, and some of them even eat fish, don't eat rodents at all. Question 4 is, if it's a baby, has it shed and has it eaten regularly? The convention among breeders is not to sell it unless it is shed without a problem and is eating regularly. This is important because you don't want to sell it and then have the person who bought it find out has any shedding problems or isn't eating. And now we have question 5. Is it docile? Some snakes, like carpet pythons like Papaya Maharian giant carpet python, have a reputation for being very defensive and bitey. Now, I haven't experienced this myself, but they just haven't. Well, some snakes, like corn snakes, have a reputation for being very docile. This is important because if you wanted a snake as a pet and that's handleable, You need to get something that's not going to be biting you every time you try to get it out. Now, having a snake that's bitey and defensive isn't necessarily a bad thing. You just have to know this before you get it. Now we have question 6. How big does it get? Some snakes, like Sydney my anthill python, don't get big at all. But it is very important because some snakes, like reticulated pythons, start off pretty small, and when you get them you may think, oh, it's only going to get a few feet longer. Wrong. They're going to get massive, 20 feet plus. And if you don't know this, it's going to be a big, big problem. So, whether you're getting a tiny snake like an anthill python or a massive snake like a reticulated python, you should always ask how big is it going to get so you know how big the enclosure is going to have to be. And that brings up question 7. What kind of care does it need? Alongside with how big the enclosure has to be, you have to know if your snake needs any special care. For most snakes, you can get away with a simple enclosure with a bottom heat mat, aspen shaving substrate, a light for a day-night cycle, a few hides, and a water dish. But some snakes need special care, like doesn't need anything to climb on because it's arboreal, doesn't need deeper substrate because it's fossorial, doesn't need to have extra humidity because it's from the rainforest, or doesn't need more water because it's aquatic. Next is question 8. How old is it? If you're getting a baby, you could probably expect you're going to have it for its entire life if it's cared for correctly. But we already explained why it's important to know how old it is so you get something too young. But if you're getting an adult, you want to know if it just matured, is it the middle of its lifespan, or is near the end of its lifespan. And it isn't bad to get a snake at any of those ages. You just have to know how old it is so you know what to expect. And that brings up question 9. Has it bred yet? Now you know why it's important to know how old it is. Because you want to know if the snake is old enough to breed, too young to breed, or too old to breed. And if you're planning on breeding the snake yourself, you have to know, has it successfully bred before in the past, or if it's too old to breed, or almost at the end of its breeding age. And also, breeding can be very stressful on the females and can even shorten their lifespan. And finally, question number 10. What are its genetics? You want to watch out for certain genes or traits that may cause diseases or be linked to neurological problems. BB has the jaguar gene, which can cause neurological problems and a slight wobble in certain individuals. And in ball pythons, the spider gene can cause severe wobbles that can make it hard for them to eat or even move. And if you're a breeder, you want to look for certain genes that are desirable, or just certain genes in general. And you also want to look if it's heterozygous or homozygous. Or, if you're just getting it as a pet, you still might want to look at the genes so you know exactly what you have and you can tell your friends. Or, you can brag to your snake friends about your edgy clown, spinner spider, acid pied, lavender albino, bumblebee ball python. And those are the 10 questions you should ask before buying a snake. So thanks for watching. Wait, I actually thought of a bonus question. Question number 11. Is this thing even a snake? Many of the things you're going to see are snakes. But there are some things, like Kevin, that aren't snakes, but legless lizards. So we have an entire video on how to tell the difference right here. There are many different kinds of legless lizards. Kevin is a European legless lizard, and there are also amphibians that are legless called Sicilians that look like snakes. And those are the 11 questions you should ask before buying a snake. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe to our channel, like our videos, and see you next time on Colin's Crazy Creatures.